Geeky Ohana, Geeky Eri here. In this video, I'll be discussing what we know of Block 2 of production of The Wheel of Time for Amazon Prime. If you're new to the channel, you might want to check out my Block 1 video first. As a reminder, all of these deep dives into the production may contain spoilers for the TV show, so proceed at your own risk. Before I get into it, I need to quickly acknowledge some other Wheel of Time super sleuths. Without these people, I literally wouldn't have enough information to make this video. So thank you Narg, Watts Series, and Twitter users Celtic Mist 08 and Lane Casper. As always, be sure to check them out for more great Wheel of Time show news and content. Okay, Block 2. To be honest, I kind of struggled with this video. Block 1 was pretty straightforward, and Block 3 has some fun information to speculate on. But Block 2? This is the completed production block we know the least about. It felt like I was putting together a puzzle without all the pieces and without knowing what the completed picture is supposed to look like. I'm going to be doing a fair bit of guessing and assuming in this video, so be mindful of that as we go forward into the unknown. Okay, let's break down the basics of Block 2. What episodes does it cover? Block 2 consists of episodes 3 and 4. The director for this block is Wayne Yip. Recent TV shows that he has directed include Doctor Who, Deadly Class, Into the Badlands, Doom Patrol, Happy, Treadstone, and Hunters. The director of photography is David Luther. As a DOP, he has numerous TV credits, the most recent of which are His Dark Materials, Mother, Father, Son, Das Boot, Hard Sun, The Last Post, Black Sails, and Sherlock. He's been nominated for an American Society of Cinematographers Award twice, once in 2014 for The White Queen, and again this past year for Das Boot. The title for episode 3 is A Place of Safety and was written by Michael and Paul Clarkson. They have individual writing credits, but together they recently served as script supervisors for His Dark Materials and writers on HBO's See. They're also fans of the book series. When A Memory of Light was released, the Clarkson twins were so excited that they read in silence together at London's oldest pub. Episode 4 is titled The Dragon Reborn and was written by Dave Hill. Dave previously worked on Game of Thrones in various roles including assistant, story editor, executive story editor, and staff writer. As far as the table read, my best guess is that it occurred during the last week of Block 1, the week of November 11th through 15th. We don't know the exact start and end dates for Block 2, but my guess is it started the week of November 18th, 2019, and ended on January 28th, 2020. There was a 2-week break for the winter holidays. Moving on to the cast, let's do this in 3 different groups. First up is the cast that I'm almost 100% certain were filming during this time. These cast members include Yosha Stradowski, Marcus Rutherford, Barney Harris, Zoe Robbins, Madeline Madden, Rosamund Pike, Daniel Henney, Alexandre Willam, Pasha Bokhari, Jennifer Preston, Alvaro Morte, Claire Perkins, Peter Franzen, and Kate Franz. The next group are the cast members I'm pretty sure were filming during this block. They were either in Prague and or have roles that we presume were filming during this time. These cast members include Maria Doyle Kennedy, Narinder Samra, Dara McCormack, Priyanka Bose, Emmanuel Imani, and Kate Fleetwood. Thanks to today's What on Prime announcement, I can also add Kaya Alexander to this list. She's pretty secretive on social media, but a quick search revealed a conspicuous silence in late November until December 7th, when she was in Germany for German Comic-Con Dortmund. Finally, this third group contains people that might have filmed during this time, but I personally wouldn't bet money that they definitely were a part of these episodes. There's enough there that it's worth mentioning them though. These cast members are Izuka Hoyle, Helena Westerman, Jennifer Chun Garcia, Sophie Okonedo, Abdul Salis, and Stuart Graham. I have absolutely no indication either way that Abdul Salis or Stuart Graham are in these episodes. They could be totally absent. but they are both playing white cloaks, and sometimes white cloaks turn up when you least expect them. Also, Sophie has no social media, so I don't know if she appeared in this block, but I'm adding her because it's a possibility. Moving on to the locations we know about for this block. The first one is the location of Ploskovice, a beautiful chateau built in the first quarter of the 18th century and commissioned to be a mini Versailles. Check out the link on the screen for more information and photos of both the interior and exterior. Thanks to Watt series, we know that filming possibly took place in the entrance hall and the Empress's salon. The next location is a forest area near Brody. This is an unconfirmed location, but crew was spotted setting up equipment in this area in late November. The next location is that of Velika America. Velika America, or Big America, is a partially flooded abandoned limestone quarry. As you can see, it's quite the epic location, and it's been used in other productions such as the television series Britannia. This is unconfirmed, but the set I believe is for Wheel of Time was built inside the quarry on one end of the water. You can make out a dozen or so wooden buildings along with a windmill and a chute that stretches from the rocky wall to the water. So why do I think this is for Wheel of Time and not some other show? Well, back in September, someone posted a picture of the set being built along with the caption, "Would they shoot a fairy tale again?" In November, another person said that American filmmakers were there filming something in the style of The Hobbit. And earlier in November, on another photo of the set, while the original poster said it looked like something medieval might have been being filmed, another person chimes in and commented, "What?" They did not elaborate further on their comments, but it's compelling enough evidence for me to think this is indeed a set for Wheel of Time. Moving on to the next location, we have Milovice, specifically a stretch of land used for recreational off-road vehicles. I do want to note that this picture is not exactly where they filmed, just an approximation. The final location is Skansen Lepora, another unconfirmed location, and I'm honestly not really sure if the show did indeed film here because it unfortunately caught fire on December 10th, burning down 3 buildings. According to the mayor of the area, the Wheel of Time was supposed to film there within a week of Friday, December 13th, but there were still burned down buildings as recently of May of this year, so I don't really know how the fire may have affected the filming schedule. Special thanks go to Lane Casper on Twitter for finding the scoop. So, to summarize, the known locations we have are Ploskovice, Brody, Velika America, Milovice, and possibly Skansen Lepora, but we can't forget that a lot of filming is probably also being done in a studio. To compare, Carnival Row is another Amazon Prime series being filmed in Prague, and they filmed about 60% of their first season on sets built at Barandov Studio. I can only hope that Amazon releases some behind-the-scenes footage after the show is released so that we can get a glimpse into what the Wheel of Time sets in the studio are like. Okay, moving on to the meat of this video, the filming timeline. Before we get into the first week of Block 2, let's review some relevant information from the last week of Block 1. Alexandre Willam left for his new show on November 12th. Pasha Bokhari was in Prague on the 16th. And the prior week, we had an urgent casting call put out for young extras. By the way, Alexandre wasn't in Prague for very long as he was back home on the 16th. Also on the 16th, Claire Perkins posted that she would be flying to Prague the next day, the 17th. Alvaro Morte was spotted in Prague on the 17th. The following day, the 18th, Alvaro won for Best Actor at the Premios Iris Awards, but he wasn't able to pick it up due to him being filming in Prague at the time. So let's go ahead and add that he was in Prague on the 18th as well. While we're on the 18th, Kate Fleetwood posted from Prague on that day. As a reminder, she's one of the actors in my second category of actors whom we don't know are filming during this block for sure, but most likely are. Because of this, her timeline is yellow. Moving on to the next day. In the article where we first learned that the Wheel of Time would be filming in Ploskovice, they said the flaps would go live on November 19th. I'm not sure if this is a translation error or if it's terminology I'm unfamiliar with, but I'm assuming it means that filming at Ploskovice was scheduled for the 19th. The next day, Claire Perkins said that she was just in Prague and that she'd be going back in December and January. She couldn't share more due to an NDA, but we know she wasn't in Prague on the 20th. I'm going to go ahead and guess that she was there through the 19th. On the 21st, Alexandre Willam posted that he was in Prague for the day for costume fitting and stunts. He also posted a picture of himself with some of the stunt team. Both of these posts were tagged with the hashtag Wheel of Time, and both were quickly deleted. We know he wasn't filming that day, so I'm going to note that Alexandre was doing a costume fitting and stunts on the 21st. On the 22nd, Maria Doyle Kennedy posted one video and one picture of different spots in Prague. I'm pretty sure Maria filmed scenes during this vlog, but without confirmation, she's going to be yellow on our timeline. That same day, Helena Westerman was in Prague celebrating her birthday. She was also in Prague on the 23rd. I'm going to add her to the calendar, but her timeline is in red because I really don't know if she was here to film, and I wouldn't exactly put money on it. Now the 23rd is a Saturday, so I don't think there was any filming that day, but it's worth noting that on this day, it looked like some crew was setting up in a forest in Brody, although I don't know when filming might have actually occurred at this location. On Sunday the 24th, Alexandre Belhomme headed back to Prague with his guitar. Also that night, this video taken at Velká Amerika was posted online. As you can see, it looked like quite a bit of prep work was being done, including balloon lighting. This is interesting because on the following day, these pictures were posted of what looks like a night shoot. Thanks to Nar for passing along these very intriguing photos. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that filming was done that Sunday night through Monday the 25th. Looking at Monday, Daniel Henney posted this photo online that day of himself on an airplane with the caption 한국 가는 길, or Road to Korea. He was in Korea for the week until the 29th at least, when he posted a picture of himself at Incheon International Airport, so he was not available to film this week. On the other hand, something that was scheduled for this week was filming with Asian extras without hair. The casting call for this said that they were looking to do this filming on November 25th for about 3 to 6 days. Assuming these scenes filmed as scheduled, they occurred on this week for about 3 to 6 days. I'm going to guess that filming in Velká Amerika also took up a lot of the week, but please keep in mind that this is just my guess. Moving on to the 26th. This is related more to Block 3 than 2, but it's worth noting that Sally Richardson Whitfield posted this on Instagram that day, providing our first hint that she was involved with the show. Her post was quickly removed, which pretty much confirmed her involvement. The next day, Maria Doyle Kennedy posted another photo of Prague. This would be her last Prague photo for a while, as she posted from Dublin on the 29th. We already know Maria was in Prague on the 22nd. Let's go ahead and fill in that timeline through the 27th. I heard through one of my eyes and ears that Jennifer Preston, who plays Mistress Grinwell, flew into Prague the night of the 27th. For all intents and purposes, her first full day was on the 28th, so I'm going to label her as being in Prague from the 28th. However, she didn't film until the 29th. For speculation purposes, I'll note this to avoid confusion. Now, other than the post from November 16th, we don't have any other social media evidence from Pasha Bokhari that gives us an idea of the exact time period he was in Prague. However, it's probably a safe bet that Master Grinwell would be filming the same days as Mistress Grinwell. Also, another actor whom I believe shared scenes with Pasha was only in Prague for 4 days, from the 27th through the 30th. So for that reason, I'm going to guess Pasha Bokhari was also in Prague during this time. Remember that urgent call for teenage extras? I still don't know when they needed them, so I'll just put this casting call up top for us to keep in mind. I am going to guess that they used them during these 2 weeks though. So here's what the first 2 weeks looks like as far as we know. But before we move on to the next 2 weeks, I wanted to take a closer look at the whereabouts of a couple of the cast members. We know Kate Fleetwood was definitely in Prague for one day, the 18th. Now, it's entirely possible that she was only in Prague for the day, similar to Alexandre Belhomme on the 21st. Maybe she was just there for a table read or a costume fitting or some other reason. Flying from the UK to Prague only takes a few hours, so it's not outside the realm of possibility to fly back and forth when needed. But production companies also like to save money, so I'd imagine they'd want to make the most out of each cast member's trip to the country. We know she was definitely in London for the Evening Standard Awards a week later, so what if Kate was actually in Prague for the whole first week? If we go with my guess, the first week starts to look like this. Now, let's take a look at Alvaro Morte. The last day I could confirm Alvaro to be in Prague was the 18th. I couldn't pin his whereabouts via social media for about a week until November 26th, where he was in Madrid doing a photo shoot. Perhaps he was busy with something secret? Perhaps not, but my personal guess is that he was there for the whole first week of Block 2 along with Kate Fleetwood. If my guess is correct, we have one interesting thing we could possibly theorize about. What scenes were filmed on November 19th at Ploskowitz? And did they include Corinne Nagashi, Logan Ablar, and Leandrin? This is pure speculation on my part. What do you think they filmed at Ploskowitz? Put your guess in the comments below. Now, let's look at the next 2 weeks of Block 2, weeks 3 and 4. If you recall, Daniel Henney was in South Korea during week 2, but he was back in Prague on December 1st. Does that mean he was filming? Not necessarily, but at least we know it's possible. Also a reminder, Alexander Milam posted from Prague until December 7th when he posted that he was back at home for the weekend. Finally, according to my eyes and ears, Jennifer Preston was in Prague for 6 days, which, if I'm counting correctly, has her there until December 3rd. I'm going to assume again that Pasha Bokhari was also there for those days. Okay, now here's where we really start getting speculative. Helena Westerman posted that she was back in Prague on December 2nd, where she posted from Old Town Square. Marcus Rutherford also posted from Old Town Square that evening, so there's a good chance they were hanging out. Helena was then in New York on the 6th, and she brought fresh flowers from Prague for her friend there, so I'm sure she flew straight. So we know she was in Prague from the 2nd until at least the 5th. On December 3rd, we know that 2 wolf dogs were involved with the scene shot in a studio that day. Also on this day, we know that Daryl McCormack was in Budapest celebrating the birthday of his girlfriend and fellow actor, Olive Gray, who was there filming for Halo. Daryl McCormack is pretty private on social media, so it's hard to say when he was in Prague, but at least I can say he was not in Prague on December 3rd. The following day, December 4th, was the What Wednesday when we finally got our Tom announcement. That day, this is what Rafe had to say. Ye of little faith. Sometimes it takes a minute to find someone who's absolutely perfect to play a character as important as Tom. I was actually in an old inn with him this afternoon to witness a Gleeman performance, and let me tell you, he is something special. I can only presume Rafe was referring to a scene shot that day, so I'm going to note that on the 4th, we had a scene of Tom in an inn. We don't really know any more about what was filmed this week, but we do have a little more to speculate on in terms of cast. Izuka Hoyle posted this picture of her on a plane on December 6th. On December 8th, she posted a picture from Prague. And on December 10th, she was back on a plane, so we can probably assume that she was no longer in Prague. If we assume she took a plane straight to Prague on the 6th, then the soonest she could have arrived in Prague was that same day, on Friday. We know for sure she was there on the 8th, and if we assume she left there on the 10th, it's safe to assume she was also there on Monday the 9th. Okay. Now might be a good time to mention that back in October, a casting call went out for men and women who have dreads for filming scenes in December. They didn't say when the filming would start, but they did mention that it would be for about 5 days. This is just a guess, but it's possible those extras were needed around the time of week 4. I'll go into my thoughts on why in just a little bit. I presume Alexander Bilam was back in Prague on Monday the 9th, but I don't know that for sure. I do know he was there on the 10th and the 11th, and the 11th was also his last post from Prague, so it certainly seems like he was done filming for the first season by this time. Looking back at December the 10th, a picture containing this was posted online that day. Let's zoom and enhance that a bit to try and make out details. And let's file that picture under the 10th. A couple days later, this picture was posted on the 12th. The picture was posted at 4:31 p.m. Central European Time, and sunset that day was at 4 p.m., so the time the picture was posted looks pretty close to when it was taken. Judging by the balloon light setup and also the caption of night shift, it appears that night shoots took place on this day. That's pretty much the last of what I can tell you for weeks 3 and 4, but before we move into the next week, I wanted to share one more picture. This picture was found and posted online by Narg on December 26th. Can we take a moment to admire the detail? Look at all the colors in her skirts and at the cuff of her sleeve. Also, it looks like this person has a braid of some sort in her hair. While this isn't exactly a dread, this is why I decided that the casting call for extras with dreads was likely to be for this week. The wagon you can see in the background certainly looks like it matches the wagons we see in the other 2 pictures. Speaking of extras, we still don't know when those teenagers were needed. I personally think it was probably for November given the urgent wording, but I don't know that for sure, so let's just go ahead and add it to the corner of the calendar so we don't forget about it. I've got one more thing to add to the calendar before we move on. Kate Fleetwood posted this picture on December 12th at 7:54 p.m. Election day in the UK was on that same day, and Kate used the hashtags voted and run for a flight, so I'm guessing she voted right before hopping on a flight to Prague. She didn't arrive until it was quite late, but since I don't know how long she was in Prague for, I'll just label her as being in Prague on the 12th for accuracy. So that's it for weeks 3 and 4. Here we have week 5, the last week for the year 2019. Don't you miss that year? Continuing in the vein of the great unknown that is Block 2, I don't have a lot to tell you for this week, but the first thing I can tell you is that Peter Franzen started filming this week. In an article from a Finnish newspaper, it was mentioned that Franzen started filming The Wheel of Time in December. Well, prior to this week, Franzen was filming in France, so this was the first week in December he would have been available. Just for confirmation, on December 21st, he posted this story to Instagram in which he mentions that he had been filming in Paris and then in Prague.
Hey there, after a couple of solid weeks of work in Paris and Prague, it's good to be home here at Simple Life, where everything is super simple all the time.
If you notice, he likes his simple life at home, so whenever we see him use a hashtag of Simple Life on social media, he's probably posting from home. Let's add Peter Franzen to week 5. On December 16th, Daniel Henney said in this video post that they were in the middle of the Czech forest. I have no clue which Czech forest they might have been filming in, so I'm just going to use another picture from Burti. I'm also going to go ahead and add Daniel Henney to this day since he was filming. Remember that tweet about Wheel of Time filming at Skansen Depora? It was posted on Friday, December 13th. Assuming the translation is correct, this tweet suggests that filming was scheduled to take place within a week of that day, which would place it during this week. Now, I'm quite skeptical that any filming actually took place here, but for the sake of being thorough, let's just list it as a possibility. Now, the last bit of info we have for this week is this picture that Madeline Madden posted to Twitter and Instagram with the caption, "The only way to wrap the last day of shooting for the decade." She posted this on Friday, December 20th. Marcus posted a story from the UK that day, so it appears he was not filming on the 20th, which I'll make note of on our calendar. So that's week 5. Now might be a good time to take a stretch break if you need. The production was off for 2 weeks, and the first sign we had of it starting up again was on the 5th, from Priyanka Bose when she posted that she was in Prague. Also on the 5th, Peter Franzen posted that he was back to the grind. Though filming was still occurring on the film he was working on, since he had wrapped it back in December, I assumed that he was off to Prague to film The Wheel of Time. But I don't know this for sure, so I'm going to label this day as him being back to the grind. Moving on to January 6th, Priyanka posted a picture of the coveted Wheel of Time water bottle, along with the message, "And it begins. Welcome to my tribe." By the way, if you don't already follow Priyanka on Instagram, you really should. Not only is she just a delight, but she also helps keep us well supplied with Wheel of Time content while she's filming. So we can extend Priyanka's day to the 6th. We don't really know anything about the 7th, so I'm skipping ahead to the 8th. Zoe Robbins posted this on Instagram. First day back at work for the year, so I'm guessing she was on set that day. Speaking of being on set, Claire Perkins was, and she was getting ready in her trailer the morning of the 8th. Check out her Twitter if you want the original, unedited tweet. It's hilarious. So Claire was in Prague on the 8th, as was Alvaro Morte. I don't know exactly how long Alvaro was in Prague, hence the ellipsis. Moving on to the 9th. Priyanka posted a story with Emmanuel Imani, so we know Emmanuel Imani was in Prague. By the way, Manny doesn't have social media, so it's hard to know exactly when he was in Prague unless another cast member shares a picture with him. Moving on to the 10th, Daniel Henney was on set that day and also battling jet lag, so he probably only recently returned to the country. We don't know anything about the set, but apparently he drove through the countryside to get there. On the 11th, Claire Perkins went on a weekend getaway with her friends back in Maidenhead, England, and she left there on January 15th, which is the following Wednesday. It seems odd for Claire to be on set for only one day, so I'm going to go ahead and guess that she was in Prague on the 9th and the 10th before going to England for the weekend. On the 12th, Priyanka posted from a vegan cafe in Prague. Also that day, Peter Franzen posted a video of himself working out in Prague. Special thanks to Watt Series for helping me confirm that this was indeed Prague. So I'm going to guess that Peter Franzen was also in Prague the whole first week of filming for 2020. Moving on to the 13th, Madeline posted a goodbye to Australia post on that day. I can't say exactly when she made it to Prague, but it was probably the 14th at the very earliest. So we know that Maddie definitely was not in Prague or on set from the 5th until the 13th. On to the 14th. 2 different crew members posted these pictures. I presume these photos are taken somewhere around where filming was done for the day, but they should be treated as more of a behind-the-scenes look at a pretty sunrise rather than a real look into what the backdrop for filming might have looked like that day. Moving on to the 15th. Priyanka made a post on this day, so we know that she's been in Prague this whole time. The next day, Marcus Rutherford was at the airport on this day, presumably heading back to Prague. I'm going to assume he arrived the same day. Also arriving in Prague on that day was Maria Doyle Kennedy. Not in Prague at this time, Alvaro Morte. He was in Spain on the 15th and on the 16th, so we'll just make note of those 2 days. Also not in Prague on this day, Abdul Salis. He was in London prepping for a performance at the Young Vic Theatre, so I'll make note of that as well. Moving on to the 17th, we have the Block 3 table read. I'll go over who's involved in this block in my next video, but here we have the photos that the official What on Prime account released of some of the cast at the table read that day. And here are some bonus photos that Barney and Taylor shared. I also wanted to note that Zoe, Narinder, and Emmanuel were also probably there. So with that, I'm going to make just a few more adjustments to our calendar. I don't have enough room to note every actor that we know was at the table read, so just try to keep in the back of your head that those actors were there on and probably around the 17th. So here's weeks 6 and 7 for you to look at. As you can see, we don't know a whole lot about what scenes were filmed, but we can probably come up with some guesses based on Corinne Nagashi, her warder, Alana and her warder, and Logain all being in Prague to film around the same time. We also don't know where Kate Fleetwood was, but considering that she was in Prague around the same time as Claire Perkins back in November, it's possible that she was here to film around this time too. Moving on to weeks 8 and 9. First, I just want to go ahead and say Priyanka was in Prague the entirety of week 8. Actress Kate Franz started on her way to Prague. She doesn't seem to actually arrive until later in the week, however, so I'm not going to add her to the calendar just yet. Claire Perkins was also back in Prague on the 19th, and we know she was on set the following day. Now, I'm jumping ahead a little, but I'm also going to go ahead and add Claire for the whole week. The last day we know she was in Prague for these 2 weeks was January 26th, when Priyanka posted this picture of her. So we've got 2 Aes Sedai in town for week 8. What about their warders? Remember that article about Peter Franzen? At the time the interview was done, Franzen was in the middle of filming a major battle, one that was on its 3rd day of filming. So when was the interview done? I couldn't get an exact date, but the author of the article graciously let me know that he did the interview several days before it was published. According to this handy chart, several could be 6, 7, or 8. The article was published on the 28th. Counting back 6 days brings us to the 22nd, which just so happens to be what's probably the 3rd filming day of the week. This possibly matches with what Franzen said about it being the 3rd day of filming the battle scene. The exact dates may not line up exactly, but there was a battle scene sometime this week filmed with Peter Franzen. Now, are you ready for more conjecture? Recently, Peter Franzen posted this video of him chopping wood with an axe. Alvaro Morte commented that he always finds Peter holding an axe, and Peter responded that, luckily, this one isn't that close to your talented head. A warder's axe close to a male channeler's head. Sounds like a battle to me, but was Alvaro Morte in Prague during that time? Possibly. On the 25th, Alvaro Morte posted this on Instagram. Here's the Google translated version. He's on a plane flying to the Goya Cinema Awards in Malaga, Spain. It's very possible that he was flying from Madrid, where he's reported to live, to Malaga. The flight is about an hour and a half long. But what if he was actually flying from Prague? Now this is purely a guess on my part, so take it with a grain of salt. But also consider that Jennifer Chun Garcia was in Prague until the 22nd. She may have just been doing hair and makeup tests or costume fittings. I don't know if she was filming, hence why her timeline is in red, but it is possible. Moving over to the 24th. Kate Franz finally arrived in Prague, and we have a couple of other notable happenings on this day. Madeline reunited with Archie and gave us our first look at one of the horses playing Bella. Marcus also reunited with his horse first. I don't have room to put a picture of the horses in, but I'll make note about them on the calendar. A word of warning though, just because Maddie and Marcus visited their horses doesn't mean they actually filmed with them that day. It's very possible that it could have been for a rehearsal of some sort. A lot of prep work has to go into a scene before they even shoot it, hence why I'm not sure if Jennifer actually filmed during this time or if she just came for some sort of preparation. Anyway, the night of the 24th, a number of cast and crew went out together. Priyanka, followed by Claire and others, posted this picture taken on the 24th. In it, we have Peter Franzen, Zoe Robbins, Rafe Judkins, Kate Franz, Taylor Napier, Claire Perkins, Emmanuel Imani, Wayne Yip, Dave Hill, Priyanka Bose, Madeline Madden, and Joe Layton. Joe Layton is an actor and the boyfriend of Kate Franz. He's not in Wheel of Time, but you can catch him and Claire Perkins in Young Wallander on Netflix. With that group picture, we can also add Emmanuel Imani to the 24th. Moving on to the 25th, Daniel Henney posted that there was an impromptu wheel party that night. Here we have Peter Franzen, Emmanuel Imani, Taylor Napier, Zoe Robbins, Marcus Rutherford, Rafe Judkins, Madeline Madden, Priyanka Bose, Claire Perkins, and Daniel Henney. Moving on to the 26th. This is the day Priyanka posted that she was having pear and a whiskey with Claire Perkins. This is the last post we see of Claire in Prague. Another note is that Taylor posted a picture of himself on what appears to be a plane on the 26th. I have no idea where he might have gone, but it's worth noting that he might not have been in Prague for the next few days. Okay, moving on. We don't really know anything about the 27th, so skipping to the 28th, the final day of Block 2. How do we know this? Well, the first huge clue is Zoe's post. Halfway through the best job of my life. I crunched the numbers of weeks and days, and it didn't compute with either of those methods. The main way this statement would make sense is if this halfway point was the end of the second of 4 filming blocks. Thankfully, this is supported by other evidence which I'll cover in just a bit, but first, I want to point out that it looks like filming this day took place in a studio somewhere. So we had Zoe in a studio. What else do we know about this day? Priyanka Bose posted this on her Instagram stories. I think it's safe to say that since this post, fans have been hoping and praying to see some of that sizzle reel themselves. From what I understand though, sizzle reels are usually for internal use, so sorry guys. We'll just have to wait for that first teaser trailer to drop. So that's the end of Block 2. But what about those other things I mentioned that hinted that the 28th was the last day? Well, Madeline Madden had her first day back on set on the 29th, and Marcus was also on set that day. Alvaro Morte returned to Prague, while Peter Franzen left. Claire Perkins was also back with her family. By the way, Kate Franz also left as she was in Morocco on the 30th. Though there's a lot of movement of cast throughout a block, the timing of these movements along with Zoe's post about being halfway through tells me that Block 2 ended on January 28th and Block 3 began on January 29th. There's a lot of fun tidbits to speculate over in Block 3, but you'll have to wait for my next video to get into all of that. So before I wrap, I just wanted to propose some of my own guesses. First, our main characters are still split up at the end of episode 4. Next, I think we'll be getting some musical performances from Tom and hopefully Illa as well. I think we'll see what happens when the water bond is broken due to an Aes Sedai's death. I also think that we'll see Alana Bond's a new warder, Maxim, though we may not see that in these particular episodes. Alright, what do you think? Comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to hit the like button if you found this video helpful. Next up is Block 3. Like I said, there's lots of fun bits to speculate on and I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts on them. To get notifications when that video is released, follow me on Twitter, or you can subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for notifications. That's it for now. Thanks for watching!